Welcome back to the Burke Family 54 Comics channel. I am Steve, and welcome to episode 2 of my podcast series that I just started last week. If you are listening for the first time, I would invite you to subscribe to my channel. I do lots of hauls, unboxings, live streams, giveaways, reviews, previews, all of that and more. Thank you to everyone that's listening right now, and thank you to my channel supporters. In our family tier, we have Ruben Guzman, Legion of Comics, The Cover Collector, Mike V, Deep Dive Comics, Flash 6792, The Comic Book Poser, and Collectibles Lounge. Thank you to my family tier. And our friend tier, we have DJ Links, and thank you to everyone that is in the supporter tier as well. If you're listening for the first time, my podcast is broken down into 3 parts. This week, the first part is going to be my new Comic Book Day polls. In the second section or segment, we're going to have what hobbies I have or what things I'm doing outside of comic books. And then my third segment is going to be talking about comic book grails. So let's go ahead and get into my first topic. We have what am I grabbing for new Comic Book Day, November 11th, 2020. My new Comic Book Day polls. So make sure you check out my new Comic Book Day top picks video. I'll try to put a link to that in the description here. But what books I'm going to be grabbing this week are Power Rangers #1. Obviously, I'm super excited about that. Anything Power Rangers, I love. I've been reading since issue 0 that came out almost 5 years ago now, and it's been really, really good. This is the relaunch where we're splitting into a Mighty Morphin book that came out last week and Power Rangers that comes out this week. And we get a new artist, and honestly, it's probably my favorite art that I've seen since Dan Mora. It's been really good. It's going to be really good by Francesco Mortarino. I'm excited about it. Power Rangers #1. The other book that I know I'm going to grab is The Flash #765. This is the third book by Kevin Shinick. And honestly, so far it's been kind of lackluster. It's hard to pick up the pieces and be better than your predecessor when your predecessor is Joshua Williamson, who killed it. Over 100 issues in a row. Every single book was amazing. So far, I haven't been impressed, but hopefully that turns around this issue. I love The Flash. It's one of my favorite characters. Wally is better than Barry, but I do like Barry a lot, and I like the Flash character. So I'm definitely picking up Power Rangers #1 and Flash #765. Those are the only 2 books I'm for sure grabbing. I'm on the fence on TMNT #111. Now, I will be getting the exclusive for it that I announced for Simple Man's Comics and the 616 Comics. But I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I'm going to be continuing reading this because, honestly, the writing by Sophie Campbell has not been good. Let's be honest. The writing since issue 100, like after that, starting at issue 101, has not been great. I'm not a huge fan of Sophie Campbell's writing. Jody Nishijima's art is okay, but the writing has not been good. I've not been a fan, so I'm kind of on a fence on whether or not I'm going to be reading this or not, but there's a lot of sick covers for it for number 111 and 112. Seven Secrets #4, I'm on the fence on getting as well. I will be reading it digitally from Boom Studios, but I'm on the fence on whether or not I'm going to pick it up as a floppy. The story has been kind of a slow build. Tom Taylor's a really good writer. It just feels like it's taking forever to get from point A to point B. There's too much filler, it feels like, when it should be a lot of action at the start. Like, I totally get what they're trying to do. They're building up this little character and trying to make him big, but it just feels like it's taking too long. We're only 3 issues in, so I'm definitely going to read this. I'm just unsure if I'm going to buy it or not. Punchline #1, you get the origin of Punchline, which I actually do prefer Punchline over Harley Quinn, but I'm just not really a huge fan of like those side characters in general. Like, I don't really like Harley Quinn, and like I said, I do prefer Punchline over Harley Quinn, and her look is pretty good as well. In terms of the way that she's drawn and whatnot, I feel like it's a cool character. And then I'm also on the fence on Death Metal Infinite Hour Extreme #1. I feels like there's too many of these death metal tie-in books, and this one is about Lobo. And it just doesn't seem like a book that I'm really going to be super into. Honestly, it feels like this death metal event is taking way too long to get finished. Feels like forever ago that it started, and I want to say we're only like 4 issues in. We got a billion sidebar stories, a billion one-shots going into this, and I feel like there's a lot of fatigue going on with that story. And honestly, I felt like fatigued the last time we did this a couple years ago with the original Dark Knight's Metal story by Scott Snyder, which I love Scott Snyder as a writer. I'm just not a huge fan of the way they're dragging things out. Too many tie-ins, too many one-shots, all of that. So I'm on the fence on TMNT 111, Seven Secrets #4, Punchline #1, and Death Metal Infinite Hour Extreme #1. Maybe grabbing 1 or 2 of those. We'll see. And there's a couple other books that I do want to talk about that I've heard good things on that I'm probably not going to be reading, but everyone else is saying it's really good. And that's We Only Find Them When They're Dead. #3 comes out this week by Boom Studios. And then Strange Academy #5. I've heard really good things about both of those. I know that Strange Academy, they've done like 30 printings, whether it's, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever it is, printing of #1, 2, and 3. So #5 comes out this week. So I guess it's kind of a jumping on point. It's not that many other books you got to go back and pick up, but I'm just not a big Doctor Strange fan or Marvel fan, so I'm probably not going to be grabbing that. But like I said, I've heard great things about it, so maybe I'm missing out. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing out on stuff. And then We Only Find Them When They're Dead. I'm not a big space fan, and it doesn't seem like it's really right up my alley, and I've heard that issue 1 was kind of like a slow build as well. And I'm already getting that with Seven Secrets because I do have Seven Secrets 1 through 3. So I may not be grabbing that. We'll see. But to go back over my list, I am definitely grabbing Power Rangers #1 and Flash #765. I'm on the fence on TMNT #111, Seven Secrets 4, Punchline #1, Death Metal Infinite Hour Extreme #1, sorry. And then I've heard good things about We Only Find Them When They're Dead and Strange Academy. We Only Find Them When They're Dead #3 and Strange Academy #5 coming out this week. Let me know in the comments what books you're grabbing this week for New Comic Book Day. So that ends segment 1, my New Comic Book Day polls. Let's go ahead and head to segment 2. We have what hobbies and stuff that I'm doing outside of work and comics and YouTube. For those that do not know already, I am a school teacher. I'm a high school teacher, and my wife is kind of a teacher too. She is, but she isn't. It's hard to explain. We're both basically teachers, and we only have one child. It's her name is Aria, and she's 5, and she's the best princess in the world. She's so funny and so cute and goofy, and so she takes up a lot of my time. And she's a lot of fun. Right now, she's super into Christmas, even though we're like a month and a half out. She's super into it, super into Elf on the Shelf. She really believes that the Elf on the Shelf flies to the North Pole and back every single night. Like, she actually believes it. It's pretty cute. She's also into roller skating and riding her electric scooter. And she's just a big ball of joy and energy, and I love that about her. And she's super smart too. Like, we just got a report card, and it was pretty high points in pretty much everything. Outside of family and comics, I'm pretty big into sports. For those that don't know, the Go Cats at the end of every one of my videos is for the K-State Wildcats from Kansas State University, which is located in Manhattan, Kansas, which is essentially where I live. I went to school there, obviously, and I got my bachelor's degree in journalism and my master's in education. And I've been going to K-State sporting events ever since I can remember, in the mid-90s. And K-State football used to be really good in the late 90s, early 2000s. And actually, when I started going to school at K-State as a student the first time, we were pretty terrible. We were good at basketball, though, so that was pretty cool. We hadn't been good at basketball in like 30 years up until then. So I just love sports in general, whether it's K-State sports or the Royals 2015 World Champs, baby. I did go to the 2015 ALCS game against the Blue Jays, where we beat them to advance to our second straight World Series. I was there, and then obviously we won the World Series against the Mets. The Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champs, so that's cool. And then just football in general. I'm also a big fantasy football fan. I'm actually the defending league champion in my fantasy football league, and I'm the commissioner in it. And I just love sports. I love talking about them. I love watching them and all of that. And like I said about K-State, I actually, for people that don't know, you probably don't know this. I actually belong to a K-State message board fan site where I actually post there regularly about, K-State sports, about how upset I am whether we won or lost, or how happy I am because we got this recruit or whatever. If you follow me on Twitter at Steve Birkland, on Saturdays you will see me blow it up when K-State is playing football because I'm a huge, huge, huge K-State fan, and I do not like losing whatsoever. Outside of sports, I love movies and TV shows, obviously. My favorite the TV show is The Flash for obvious reasons. I don't really play a lot of video games. I used to have an Xbox 360. Actually, I still do. And I used to play video games on that all the time. In college, we played Halo 3, Madden, and Call of Duty, and Midnight Club. Those are some of my favorite games. But I don't really play video games anymore. If I do, I'm going to play them on my phone. And I do like to play poker on my phone, or just play like Sonic the Hedgehog or something. But I normally don't play video games at all. I know there's a lot of people that, like, outside of comics or outside of whatever, their big thing is playing video games, and that's just not me. Like, I think it's cool. I wish I liked video games more. I just don't, you know what I mean? I'm just a big sports junkie and comic book junkie, and I love hanging out with my family. Let me know in the comments what you do outside of comics and YouTube and collecting and all that. All right, that takes us to our final segment. We're going to be talking about comic book Grails. So every single week on my podcast, I'm going to try to do 3 different segments. The first segment is always going to be my new comic book day polls, and then the next 2 will just be random topics kind of related to comic books a little bit. Last week I talked about the comic book community and, TV shows and the 90s nostalgia. This week I talked about what I do outside of comics, and then I'm about to talk about my comic book Grails. Let me know in the comments what I should do for my segment 2 and segment 3 for next week. So for segment 3 here, we got comic book Grails. If anyone doesn't know, there is a comic book YouTuber named Tony Sanders. He actually does a show titled What's Your Grail? And he actually has people coming on talking about what their Grail is, why it's their Grail, and what it would take to get it, and all of that stuff. And I think it's a great topic. I have a lot of comic books that I'd like to own, but there's a whole bunch of others that I will probably never own. And my top book, my biggest Grail since day one collecting comic books, was TMNT #1, first print, the first appearance of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Shredder. Now, I do have a Color Classics copy, but that is it. I would really, really, really like to have a TMNT 1 sometime. Obviously, what I like to have at Detective Comics 27 or Action Comics #1 or AF15, sure, obviously. But those aren't really attainable for most people, though. Congrats to Reggie for getting an AF15. I've been following him for the last 2 years now, and he's been talking about wanting to get one forever, and he finally got one. So big ups to you, Reggie. And he's actually the 3rd person that I know that has at least one of those. I know other people that have more than one, which is awesome and crazy. But for me, my biggest book is a TMNT 1. And that book has really blown up recently. I mean, I would take a TMNT 1 3rd print. That's one of the books I definitely want to get this year. But a TMNT 1, for multiple reasons, is a book that I really, really, really want as my biggest Grail. #1, obviously, it has nostalgic reasons. It was my first love as a kid, my first passion. My mom took me to the movie when I was 2 years old, and I just loved everything. I loved everything about TMNT. I had turtles everywhere in my room. I had those Fathead stickers on my wall of all the turtles. I had all the action figures. I had the light switch cover in my room. I had the border going around the top of my walls. I had the stuffed animals. I had the blanket. I had the sleeping bags. You name it, I had it. I even had the Ninja Turtles van, which my mom still has at her house, which is really cool. I just really loved TMNT as a kid before the Power Rangers came out. Like, I grew up in the best of times where I had Ninja Turtles first and then Power Rangers. So that is why I really like both of those a lot. And I want it because obviously it's the first appearance and comic book appearance of TMNT, which obviously I love comic books. I love first appearances. To have that first appearance, it would be huge. And I really want that book. You know what I mean? And I really like all the turtles. Obviously, you guys have heard that Raphael is my favorite, but people really don't know that Mikey was actually my favorite as a kid. I think Mikey's like everyone's favorite as a kid because he's kind of goofy and fun, and just he makes a lot of jokes and he likes to eat snacks and all of that. I think that's why we all like him as a kid. But he was my favorite as a kid, and then as I got a little bit older, I started liking Raph more. Donnie and Leo are cool, but they're not as cool in my opinion as Raphael. He's mean. He can take on anyone. He's not willing to back down from a fight. He's just awesome. And I love the turtles as a whole. I actually really like Jenica as a turtle, as long as she's incorporated with the other four. By herself, I don't really feel like she's that interesting, though I do have TMNT 51 and TMNT 95. Her first appearance and her first appearance as a turtle, both of them in 9/8. So I'm pretty happy to have that in my collection. That's really cool. And I do have a Raphael number 1, which is first appearance of Casey Jones and first spin-off series by TMNT. All three of those books are really cool. None of them are TMNT ones, and I really, really, really want a TMNT one at some point. Other Grails that I'd like to have, if you've seen any of my videos or heard me talk, Flash 110, first Wally West, Kid Flash, and Weather Wizard. That would be awesome to have. An ASM 300, first Venom. Obviously, everyone wants that. That's probably a modern day Hulk 181. That book just keeps going up and up and up in price. So I doubt I'll ever own a TMNT 1. I think I can get a TMNT 1 third prints. We'll see. Maybe when it goes down after The Last Ronin. We'll see. I also have a TMNT 1 TMNT Adventures number 1. First comic book appearance of Krang, Rocksteady, and Bebop that I just posted on my IG. So if you've seen me on IG, go check that out. And I want to say mine's like near mint minus copy. I don't know. But it would be pretty awesome to have a TMNT 1 because I have a lot of other big TMNT first appearances, I feel like. Let me know in the comment section what your Grail is and what you guys thought of my TMNT 1 as my Grail. So that's going to wrap up episode 2 of my podcast. Again, I'm Steve from Burke Family 54 Comics. Thanks everyone for listening. And thank you again to my channel members and our family tier. We have Ruben Guzman, Mark from Legion of Comics. We have The Cover Collector, Mike V, Keith over at Deep Dive Comics, Robert Flash 6792, Dustin over at Comic Book Poser, and Selwyn from Collectibles Lounge. Thank you guys for supporting the channel as family tier. Thank you to DJ Links for joining as a friend tier member, and thank you to all of my supporter tier members as well. Thanks everyone for listening, and you know what time it is. Go Cats, Cowabunga, and it's Morphin time.